Shout out to G-Man Boxing.
Alright people, this is just a follow-up video to the video I did where I broke the news about the pay-per-view for Tyson Fury Derek Chisora 3 being essentially £27. Okay? And, you know, when you're doing news videos, and even though I went in a bit in that video, you kind of want to just kind of say your piece and get it out of the way. This one is going to be a bit longer, probably a bit longer anyway. But to me, it's just this whole Fury Chisora thing being on pay-per-view and being £27. I mean, Frank Warren, he'll still do it. But Frank Warren can never criticize Eddie Hearn. He still will. But Frank Warren will always say things like, you know, go back a few years ago, 2016, prime example, having a go at Eddie Hearn and StubHub. Eddie Hearn for working with them. Well, not only haven't StubHub been working with Frank Warren, but wasn't there a time a couple of years ago, it might have been more recent, where didn't they sponsor one of his shows? Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I know he's been doing the same thing. So he's criticised Eddie Hearn for working with StubHub, but he has himself. Right? So there's one thing. Then Frank Warren is moaning, saying, oh, Eddie Hearn is putting pay-per-view fights on left, right and centre, blah, 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 blah. Well, now we have a fight here in Fury Chisora 3, right? The first fight wasn't on pay-per-view, which happened 2011. The second fight wasn't on pay-per-view, which actually had Billy Joe Saunders versus Chris Eubank Jr. as the co-main event. That wasn't on pay-per-view 8 years ago, right? Now, someone could turn around and say, well, gee, the reason those two weren't on pay-per-view all them years ago was because, you know, neither guy was the name they are now. And, you know, you could also say that, you know, the fights then were so entertaining that, you know, you run it back now, it's just the value of the fight is increased. Yeah, none of that's true. Is Fury a bigger name than he was 8 years ago? Yeah, he is. Chisora is probably maybe a little bit bigger of a name, certainly in London, but not universally. And Fury won both fights handily. In fact, the second fight wasn't even competitive. So the fact that they're running the back now 8 years later, and not only that, they're expecting to put it on pay-per-view. To me, it just blows my mind that they do that and they put this on pay-per-view and they try and justify it. I mean, you just have to laugh. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing what these pay-per-view numbers are going to be. Because at the end of the day, right, I've said this once, I'll say it again. Certainly in the UK. In Ireland, there's obviously inflation as well. But I don't think it's quite as bad. It's not much better, but I don't think it's quite as bad as what's happening over in the UK, right? And, you know, obviously we know why everything is the way it is. It's past 2 years, don't need to go into it, we all know. But things are going to get worse before they're going to get better, put it like that, in terms of money for people, disposable income, the price of everything, etc., etc. And, you know, this winter, I don't know about you guys, but I think this winter's been particularly cold. You know, I don't remember last winter being that cold, to be honest with you. But this winter's been absolutely freezing. Now, there are people, and thank God, you know, I'm not one of them. But there are people who really have to sit in the cold or wear, you know, jacket after jacket after jacket. You know, like Joey and Friends when he wore all Chandler's clothes all them years ago. Showing my age now. But they have to do that just to keep warm. Now, you really think those people are going to put their hand in their pocket and pay £27 for a complete mismatch like this, even if they want to? Many of them can't even afford it. And Tyson Fury, the people's champ. Yes, I'm the people's champ. I'm the man of the people. Okay, well, if you're the man of the people, why are you putting this on pay-per-view? And why are you happy to have this fight go for £27, essentially? You know, if you were a man of the people, maybe you'd encourage Frank to put this on standard BTs. Oh, no, you're not going to do that, are you? No, you're not going to do that. Because the man of the people is just a front, really. That's what it is. You know, and the people who believe that, I mean, Jesus Christ. Tyson Fury ain't your friend. You know, I mean, that's just, he ain't your friend. He don't know you from Billy to Jack. He don't give a damn about the people. Tremendous fighter as he is, he doesn't give a damn about the people. He cares about getting the bag. That's all he cares about. That's all Frank Warren cares about. That's all Frank Warren's ever cared about. You know, Frank Warren, it amazes me that people would say, gee, and Eddie Hearn, look, I've criticised Eddie Hearn plenty on this channel. I mean, look at the Conor Benn situation. I mean, I even done a WTF video on him. But people would say, like, oh, Eddie Hearn does this, he's a scumbag, blah, 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 blah. But Frank Warren's not like that. Frank Warren's history is there for all to see. This is a guy who was shot in the 90s, for God's sake. Frank Warren was business partners with Don King in the 1990s. Now, Don King is, I mean, the worst of the worst in terms of just every aspect. I mean, he's one of the horrible, in terms of shows, put on some great shows, but a horrible man, evil man, and Frank Warren was his partner in crime almost, his protege, for want of a better word. So Frank Warren is not as bad as Don King. Don King is someone who, he would literally, steal candy from a baby. I'm sure Frank Warren, as bad as he is, even he wouldn't stoop that low. But Don King would. That just horrible, despicable human being Don King is. Even now, he's in his 90s and he's still just as bad as ever. So Don King is the worst of the worst. But Frank Warren is, yeah, the less that's said about him, the better. But Frank Warren can, get on his high horse and say this, that, and the other about Eddie Hearn. He can say this, that, and the other about, this owner doing this, and, Sky did this, etc., etc. Yeah, look what you're doing. You're charging people for the privilege of watching a complete mismatch with a fairly weak undercard, let's be frank. And yet you have the audacity to say that, you're looking out for the fans. Tyson Fury, you have the audacity to say you're the people's champ. Really? 27 quid. And people could just say, oh, well, if you're upset, don't watch it. It's the principle at the end of the day. If you're going to come out and say, what I'm looking to do, I'm looking to put these shows on for the fans and, make it accessible and this, that, and the other. And yeah, you're charging us, as I said. And, there was a lot of talk that Anthony Yard versus Beterbiev was going to be pay-per-view as well. And we're getting charged now, on top of your standard BT, 27 quid, just to watch a fight that everyone, I don't think I've seen anyone even give Chisora a prayer. It is a complete and utter mismatch. And we are, again, well, they're expecting, I'm not paying for it, I know most people aren't, but they're expecting people to put their hand in their hard-earned money, when, as I said, there are people who can't afford to heat their own homes up. And they're expecting people to pay 27 quid. And then they have the audacity to say that they're doing this for the fans, and that Tyson Fury is the people's champ. I mean, Tyson Fury, he's not in a cost of living issue. He doesn't have a cost of living issue. But if he was the people's champ, he'd know how hard it is for the average Joe on the street to make ends meet every week. It's not easy. Everything's expensive. Fuel, food, everything. It's expensive. So surely, if he's the people's champ, wouldn't he look at that and say, do you know what? My kids are set up, and their kids are set up, and probably even their kids are set up for life because of me. Christmas time. I've beat this guy twice already. Probably going to beat him again. I'd throw the fans a bone. Put it on standard BT Sport. Let's do it. Nope. Not happening. Not happening. And look, it's easy for me to say I'm not going to pay for it. Of course not. I'll watch it by other means. And I paid for Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury. I paid for all of the Deontay Wilder fights. Happily paid for them. Great fights. Put my hand in my pocket because they were fights that warranted. They were fights that I had no issue being on pay-per-view. With Deontay Wilder, even though he beat him convincingly in the second fight, I still paid for the third fight because you just don't know with Deontay Wilder. With Dillian Whyte, although, with the benefit of hindsight, you could say, yeah, he was always going to lose, but you just didn't know because we hadn't seen him fight. Again, seen these guys fight twice now. Last time was 8 years ago. Chisora struggled against Kubrat Pulev. Before that, he got dropped a few times by Parker. Lost to Parker before that again. Lost to Kubrat Pulev. Lost to Alexander Usyk. Fought David Price and then fought Senat Gashi. Lost to Dillian Whyte. Got a good win against Carlos Takam, but was on the verge of being stopped. Who else did he fight? Didn't he fight, I think he fought someone. Oh, didn't he fight Spilka as well in that time? But you get what I'm getting at. There's wins and losses. So it's not like we're talking about a contender who maybe Tyson Fury beat several years ago and he's, built himself back up and he's got a lot of good wins, and now it's a different fighter. You know, it's not like that at all. No, it ain't like that at all. Complete mismatch. And yeah, just, you know, people say to me they like these ranting videos, and I don't like to make videos where I'm ranting, but when you see stuff like this and BS like this, sometimes you just gotta make a video and talk about it. And again, people seem to like it when I do these, and I don't do these because, you know, I'm looking for attention or anything like that, but I think that it needs to be said. And, you know, I know my videos tend to get over in the thousands of views, you know, a couple of low thousands, you know, 2,000-3,000 on some of them. Who knows? Who knows who might see it, you know? And who knows who might, you know, I probably won't do anything. And to be honest with you, if I'm looking for media credentials for Yard Perturbiev, I'd say if anyone increased, but he saw my last 2 videos, well, that's me effed. But do I really care? Not really. Not really. I think that the points need to be raised. And yeah, what I have to say has to be said. Crazy. £27 for a complete mismatch. Frank Warren having a go at Eddie Hearn for too many pay-per-views, StubHub, etc., etc. You know, he's trying to do what he can for the fans. Tyson Fury, a man of the people. Yeah, really? Doesn't look like it. Yeah. I'll leave it there. I won't go on too much because I'm only going to annoy myself. Let me know your thoughts. Are you going to pay for it? Or are you, like me, going to watch by other means? I'll do a review of the fight, but I ain't doing a watch along. No way. Not a hope. I'll preview it, do that, but not watch along. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. For now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you there.